Hi everyone and welcome back. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. So today I'm going to be going through a quick and easy violin tutorial on A Million Years Ago for the violin by Adele. I've done an easy piano tutorial for this, and I've also got a violin performance for this that has been out for quite a while now. Either that will be coming up here or I'll put them all in the link directly underneath this video. If you want to know where to get this free and easy sheet music that I've done for you all, again, that will be linked directly underneath this video. So if you want to know how to play A Million Years Ago by Adele on the violin, grab your copy of the sheet music and let's get going. Okay, so as usual, I'm just going to quickly explain what I've done here. You will notice that above every single note there's going to be a number. And those numbers are going to be referring to what fingers you're going to be putting down. The letters above those are what string they're going to be on. So you're going to have the third finger on the D, second finger on the A, third finger on the D, open A, third finger on, so on and so forth. Just to take you through the order of the music, this is fairly sort of self-explanatory. So you're going to start from the beginning. When you get to halfway through the second line, you can see a repeat mark. You're going to go back to the beginning. You're going to play it all the way through, basically until the end, and then at the bottom it says go back to the very start and play it all again as written. By very start I mean this bit as well, including this gap, because this is where the guitar does the da 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 da. So don't ignore that. You need to go back to that beginning or it's going to be a little bit out of sync. The other thing I just want to mention as well is that I have kept this in the same key that Adele sings this in. And I know you might look at this and sort of think, 4 sharps. But as I said with the piano tutorial, when I was playing around with this and possibly wanting to move it into a much easier key for all you violinists out there, it was one of these pieces that once I changed the key, it kind of went a bit dead. It went a little bit flat. Something just didn't sound right. It sounded like it was in the wrong key. It is in the wrong key, but it sounded musically like it was in the wrong key. So I kept it in that key for a reason. So I'll go through where you've got to put your fingers on some of the notes in a second, but that's why. But at least you can play it along with Adele, or if you can find a backing track, that kind of thing. Okay, so the sad news of all this is that every time we play a third finger, it's got to be stretched, and that is going to be on the D string and on the A string. I'm sorry about that, but just think of this as good practice anyway. So when you've got a third finger on the A, it's going to be just above the dot. Third finger on the D is going to be just above the dot as well. When you're on the E string, you're in a normal dot position, so you don't need to move the one on the E string. Your second fingers are all going to be stretched regardless of what string you're on. So E string is going to be stretched as in right next to the third finger. A string is right next to the third finger, D string next to the third finger, and G string. I don't actually think you have any on there, but the second fingers are all there. The first fingers are all as normal in their normal slot. So first fingers are all normal, second fingers are all jammed in just behind the third, and for the D and the A, third finger is just over the dot, but on the E string it's normal. So they're basically the things you need to remember. That's pretty much it. We're sort of good to go now. So okay, so the first thing I need to mention, the most problematic part you're going to be hitting is probably the first 3 bars or measures on the second line. So bar 7, 8 and 9. So what you'll notice there is that you've got a second finger for that F, which is going to be here. You've got the first finger on the dot, which is the E. Then you've got a D sharp. So I played it as a back 1, and then you've got an E, which is a normal 1, and then F, you've got a C natural, which means it's going to be a normal third finger dot, a 1 for the E, a back 1 for the D sharp, and then a normal back to the C sharp. Remember when I said the third fingers were actually stretched there. So let me just play that through and you'll see what I mean. So from measure 17. just do that again. Normal on the dot. And then stretched. Just above the dot there, so you can see that. So I know there is a little bit of sliding around with some of the ones and things, but to keep it nice and easy, it's probably the easiest way of doing it. It might not necessarily be the way that I would do it. I would probably go into another position and do that, but again, that's a little bit more advanced and that's a little bit more complicated. So to try and, if you want to play a song like this, I've tried to keep it as easy as possible, yet still going to be sounding as nice as possible. So that's perfectly fine to be sort of jumping around like that. It does the job. It's not ideal, but at this stage it's going to do the job for you. Okay, so moving on to the next part. So just remember to keep those third fingers stretched. So okay, this repeats the bit at the beginning, but I've just put it up an octave higher because she sings it an octave higher and it does sound a lot nicer. The downside to this is that I've actually given you a fourth finger for a C sharp, but I still really wanted to put it in, but it's not hard. You just have to find that note and stretch it. I mean, if you notice, it's roughly about where that sort of, where the wood of the violin sort of comes around. So that should give you an idea of, you know, can you see that it's there? So if I played, so that's bang in tune. So that should give you an idea of where you need to actually, you don't need to put a dot there because you can just see where the violin is. What I would suggest to you is keep that second finger down because you're going to need it again. If you take it off, then you've got to go and find it again. So once you've found it, keep it on. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but again, it's good for the hand to stretch anyway. It's perfectly possible to do. So just stretch and just practice. So when you get to 21, 22, you've got some C naturals and they're going to be right next door to the first finger. So you will notice that I've got a second finger for those C naturals, but then in the very next note, you've got a second finger that's going to be stretched. You could substitute that for a third finger if you really wanted to be clever, but to keep it simple, I have done it so you do the second finger for those two C's on the A string, and then you just quickly move them to just right next to the third finger for those G sharps that you've got on the E string. That isn't 100% ideal, probably not what I would do, but again, if you want to put the third finger in, it would just be going exactly the same place but just with the third finger. And that's pretty much it. Depends if you can get your head around that or not. So if you want to do that, absolutely go ahead and do that. If not, just keep it as it is. Again, not ideal, but for the level, you know, that we're kind of aiming at, I think that's going to be fine. So then that just carries on, again, just with more of those fourth fingers stretching up there. And that's, again, that's pretty much everything covered. You've got another bit with a C natural, the bit we just did, going up to the end there. So if you want to do that C natural to the G sharp, you could think that your third finger is almost going to be just touching, but you want ever such a slight little gap there to make that correct, and that'll give you an idea of where you need to put your third finger. Again, if you don't feel confident, just lift it up and, you know, put it there. So I've got a few open strings in there. If you want to do the open strings, do the open strings. I always put open strings in as a first and foremost, just because it's so much easier. If you want to substitute those for fourth fingers, absolutely go ahead and do that. So that's it. Thank you for watching. All the links are going to be directly underneath this video as per usual. So go ahead and check out what's down there. So some good stuff down there. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, this channel and my performance channel if you aren't already. Subscribing is absolutely free, no monthly subscriptions. All my videos are completely free, and all the downloads and all that kind of stuff that I do for you guys. But the one thing that you can give back to me is by subscribing and helping my channel grow. And what that does is that other people like yourself that maybe have come onto YouTube or Google and need a little bit of help and some hints and tips in violin and piano, when they type that into the search engine, it helps my channel come up to the top. So the more subscribers I have, the more popular YouTube kind of sees me, and therefore I come up to the top and I can help more of you, so people aren't struggling so much out there. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.